Good morning. Happy Monday, y'all. Sorry, my computer was a little wonky. Good morning. Welcome to chapter 26. I'm just plugging away. We're still doing this thing. So I'm just going to move this light really quick and try to make this a little brighter. There we go. All right. Hope you guys had a good weekend. We were a little sicky in our house, which was not the best thing ever. So, we're feeling a little better though today. So be sure that you're washing your hands and doing all this stuff to not get sick because it's not very fun. Today's chapter, The Acceptance, like most recent chapters, is going to build off of previous episodes. So if you haven't watched some of my earlier ones, this one may not make a lot of sense, but just you watch it anyway, I guess, if you want. But if you want it to make more sense, go back and watch the earlier ones. So, can you get right into it? This is chapter 26, The Acceptance. Making changes in our lives, regardless of how big or small they may seem, are always easier to implement in settings and to people which are new to us, right? And we call these fresh starts. And who doesn't love a fresh start? I think we all like those. We may say out loud that we're, scared of them and, oh, I'm just too anxious. No, we all love a nice clean slate, like everyone does. Maybe not in the same ways, but they do. Well, when I moved to Seattle, I was definitely given the fresh start that I needed. And it seemed... they're like night and day. Nothing against Spokane, Washington. But when I moved to Seattle, this was like clean slate. Grass is greener on the other side. It does still have to be mowed. But you see, I was at my fresh start, right? It just seemed so much easier to show up as my genuine self in Seattle. It just did from the moment I got here. And when I had lived in Spokane, and made trips to Seattle, I had felt that on every little vacation that I'd taken as well. It was just easier to be who you genuinely are here. And maybe it's not actually, but that's how I felt, right? And I just loved it. People seemed more accepting. Society seemed more open. It was just very different than places I lived before, and I absolutely loved it. In most of the settings I had found myself in prior to Seattle, I was almost always the only gay person in the room. It's kind of interesting. So for example, in my big real estate office back in Spokane, even with more than 120 real estate agents there and the staff and everyone, there had only been one other person who was, walked the halls as a gay guy. And I don't even know if there were any women, lesbian, no one in the LGBT community. There was me and this guy. And there may have been others, but he and I were the only ones that were out and proud about it, right? 2. Now, at the first office in the Seattle area that I encountered, I didn't end up working there, but this was so fascinating to me. With less than half that number of agents, within like a few hours, I had met more than a dozen gay people. So yeah, the cliches and stereotypes of Seattle are true, I guess. So everything just seemed so much more open. And not just in regards to the gay thing, right? Everything in Seattle seemed to be more acceptable and more tolerable than in places that I had lived in before. Women's rights were front and center and talked about all the time. Mental health was being addressed and worked on everywhere I looked. There's always, working on this. There's this initiative, this fundraiser, whatever it looked like. People cared about the environment and expressed their unwavering demand for our society, and we need to do more for the planet. Things were just a lot more open, right? All these different topics. It was absolutely unacceptable for racism and discrimination to exist here. And even if it did pop up somehow, because it exists everywhere, y'all. But it was addressed. I could just end at that. It was addressed. but it was addressed here with swift, explicit action, and it just wasn't tolerated. I mean, you try to pull some kind of racism thing in Seattle, like someone is gonna hear you most likely, and there will be consequences. I know that's like a whole can of worms, and I don't mean to go there. But what I'm saying is it was just so much more open than I had ever experienced before, right? Social equality, financial equality, women's rights, gay rights, human rights. The acceptance in Seattle to me was overwhelming, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was just a whole new way of life, honestly. And I learned very quickly that showing up as the authentic you is much, much easier to do in a place where it is already the status quo. People here, they're showing up as the genuine thems. Needless to say, I settled into Seattle very quickly and with a lot of ease, right? I really started to just grow my life here and made some incredible, deep-rooted friendships just right off the bat. But I couldn't. It's interesting, and here's where the acceptance is going to start. I don't know, coming into play. As I grew into my life here, I couldn't help but notice that there was this small little bit of anger that was still inside of my heart. It had obviously, as the more that I kind of paid attention to it, obviously it had been suppressed and forced deep down, where I must have thought that it wasn't there. Right? It was extinguished. I thought I might extinguish it, I guess. But something had flared it up, y'all. And when it did, it kind of started to burn. What it was, okay, so you see, being around such love, openness, tolerance, and acceptance, it really started to form this question in my mind that became very difficult to answer. And it went something like this. This was this fire. Why was this new group of Seattle people in my life able to demonstrate and exhibit such incredible love and acceptance for others, regardless of their sex, race, orientation, whatever else makes people different? And the old group of people in my life in Central Oregon, in Arkansas, in Spokane, all these places that I had lived, they weren't able to show that same level of love and acceptance. Now the more I thought about it, this little flame it got bigger and bigger. I know it might seem trivial, y'all, and totally unnecessary to allow something so unanswerable to upset me, but I couldn't help it. I just couldn't. And I started thinking about it quite a lot. I was so mad that there was one group of people out there that had known me my entire life and couldn't seem to love and accept me for exactly who I was. And then there was another group of folks that I had known for, I don't know, basically all of 10 minutes. And they are not only telling me with their words that they love and accept me, they're showing me with their actions that they love and accept me for exactly who I am. Whew. But actually, even more than being mad, I was just perplexed by this. And I was truly stumped. Like I had a hard time wrapping my mind around it. I want to pause really quick and just talk about, as I've written this story, different aspects of my life, it's really given me pause to sit down and say, what are some of the life lessons that I had learned up to this point of my story? I learned as a kid that you got to keep digging. You got to keep going. You can't give up. I mean, you can, but you also don't have to. I also learned that sometimes you're given a family that you don't actually have to keep if you don't want to. You can create your own family if that's what you need. As a teenager, I learned that when you ignore your true self and try to be somebody else, people can't love you for who you are because you don't love yourself. And as an older teenager, I learned that arrogance does not get you very far. As a young adult, I learned that the disease to please will kill you if you let it. And also, as a young adult, I had learned that one of the secrets to life is to live with vulnerability and to let yourself be truly seen, not play the victim who blames everybody and everything. And also, another secret to life that I had learned is that you had to show up unapologetically as yourself and have at least somewhat of an idea of where you want your life to go in order for you to ever actually be content and live a life full of happiness, joy, and love. Okay, so here I am, got some of these life lessons under my belt, right? So now, in my mid-20s, finally living in a place where I feel loved and accepted by the people around me because I'm being genuine and I'm being vulnerable and I'm letting myself be truly seen, I'm mad that those who don't love me and accept me for who I truly am don't love and accept me. It made me feel like I had not learned a goddamn thing. And I mean, how many of us find ourselves in similar mindsets sometimes? I mean, it might be completely separate but related, but I just mean, how many of us have asked ourselves that? I'm happy or I have what I want. I just wish they loved me. I'm here, I'm happy, I'm content. I just wish they wanted me. I wish it would have happened. I wish that. It's so interesting to me. And I really wrestled with this because I felt happy, and yet there's this little flame inside me of anger because there's a whole group of people that doesn't seem to accept me for who I am, and I'm letting that get me down. And for lack of any other word, I'm just going to say it. I don't love this word, but I just felt dumb. I felt really, really dumb. There was so much goodness. There's so much love, so much happiness and acceptance that had come my way. And yet I found myself wondering why I couldn't just have it from the people that I had wanted it from. I can't say that I really shared this with many people. It's not something that I really talked about at all, but I did write a lot about it in my journal. But that was kind of the extent to which I dealt with it. I thought about it a lot, though. And the more I thought about it, it seemed like I was being reminded of those people, the ones that wouldn't accept me, left and right. Like everywhere I looked, social media especially just exacerbated it. I had all these friends that I knew did not love and accept me for who I am, and yet they're still liking my stuff, and I'm still liking their stuff, and we'll just take the whole, we can't talk about this thing, and we'll put that over here. Today, it reminds me of a classic example that we all kind of know, even if you haven't experienced this per se, like you know about it. It reminds me of when you're taken into like a conference with your teacher as a kid, or maybe it's a job review now with your boss, and they sit you down and they talk about the 99 things that you are doing so great at and amazingly with. But there's maybe one area that you could improve in or needs improvement. And then we sit there and all the 99 things, they like in one ear out the other. We can't even hear them because we are so fixated on the one thing, right? I think that's a whole other story, actually. So I'm not even going to go there. But that's what was happening. That's what I was feeling. And in a way, I suppose that I decided that because I couldn't really figure out this acceptance thing, that the best thing to do would just be to stuff it down and to shelf it and sort of forget about it. Whatever, whatever visual works best. I couldn't deal with it. Literally meaning like it seemed like an unsolvable equation. And it was my problem. I felt like if I shared this, I'd probably get many different takes on it. And maybe I just didn't even want that, because that alone maybe would have been overwhelming. But I wasn't talking about it, right? It just was, I just couldn't get over. I wasn't content with the love and acceptance that I had, obviously, because I didn't have it from the people I wanted it from. And how dumb does that sound? Because why couldn't I just get over them and seriously just be thankful and grateful for the love and acceptance that I did have? And I thought I was crazy until two things happened. One, I met a woman with a book and an idea that forever changed my life. Definitely more on that to come. And two, blatant words of wisdom from a very unexpected person at a very unexpected time. And what they both led to was my definition of acceptance, the one that I knew, being completely shattered and redefined. So that is today's chapter, the acceptance. We're almost there, y'all. Again, thank you so much for watching. And don't forget that right now, because I am so committed to getting this finished by the end of September, I'm doing one video every other day until the 30th. So it's a lot. I am getting up really early to write these things, and running a little behind this morning. But thank you for watching. Next week's episode is one of the most powerful of my entire story. So I hope that you are able to join me when I share it. Thank you again for watching so much. Let me know what questions or comments you have. Have a beautiful start to your week. Happy Monday, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye.